Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha. Earlier this week, I covered the changes in game mechanics and discussed what could be expected along those lines within Assassin Creed Valhalla and the 30 minutes of leaked gameplay footage. Earlier this morning, or I should say yesterday, as this video will be going live the day after I recorded it, an additional 7 minutes of footage came out covering a boss fight, and along with it came some new material. Now, this footage is from a more recent build of the game than the previous leaked footage, and as such, the graphics and interfaces are more refined. Also, there were two very common questions or misconceptions regarding the last video that I saw as a common trend within the comments, so allow me to address those now. First, a great many people assumed that the playable character in Valhalla was female and there was no male option. This is not accurate, and I did state this within the video, but I'll say it again in the hopes that those people will hear it this time. You will have the option to play either a male or female Eivor. It is your choice, just as you had a male or female choice in Odyssey. Secondly, people were believing that Valhalla would have levels despite Ubisoft's claims to the contrary. Ubisoft was telling the truth there, and we will be going into a bit of detail in that in a few moments. That said, let's see what sort of information we can squeeze out of this latest leaked footage. Bear in mind, within this leaked video, there is a story spoiler moment, but I'll make sure to call it out with a pause and a timestamp for those wishing to avoid it. So for those non-spoilery people out there, please make sure to keep your ears open. Right away at the very beginning of the clip, we can note that there will be different arrow types within the game. As we can see here, Eivor collects both hunter arrows and predator arrows, where the predator arrows have a noticeably larger arrowhead. This is a minor addition, as in Odyssey you did have normal arrows, fire arrows, and poison arrows, but perhaps predator arrows are a more rare form with increased damage capability. It also appears in this build of the game, the adrenaline mechanic, which is basically a stamina mechanic, has been incorporated, where performing quick dashes or dodges along with some combat attacks decreases the adrenaline bar. As we can see in the video, the player simply moves normally for a time in a circular manner around their opponent, and the depleted adrenaline meter refills. For this, let's slow down the video some so you can get a better idea. A reason being, it also appears that if the player completely depletes their adrenaline meter, they will be unable to perform any of those actions until it is allowed to refill completely, changing from gray to blue. Whereas if they allow some of their meter to remain, those actions are still possible and the blue meter refills after a few brief moments. The stamina mechanic is nothing new in video games, however, it would denote a clear further shift into the realm of RPGs that I've seen a great many people in the comments section be unhappy about. I personally don't mind, but I can see why many Assassin's Creed fans would be displeased with this shift. You can also note that there are 2 meters for the boss being depicted at the top of the screen. The gray bar denoting their overall health, where the yellow bar appears to potentially be their own stamina meter. And then let's go real slow for this moment, as it appears that as the boss, Cordelia, is performing a power attack, a well-placed arrow completely depletes the remainder of her yellow meter, allowing Eivor to perform a stun attack for a massive amount of damage by being so kind as to return Cordelia's dropped weapon to her. Now, there were a great many people commenting that they thought that Ubisoft had stated that there would not be any levels within Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The reason for those questions arose from the number value being shown in the upper right corner of the screen, which was the location of the player level within Assassin's Creed Odyssey, as can be seen here. Well, Ubisoft wasn't actually lying there. That number in Valhalla simply shows unspent skill points, not levels. Something that was merely touched on in the previous video and wasn't really discussed, but it is something I probably should have talked about, was that there are no levels per se within Valhalla. Instead, you have an overall power rating, which is a combined total of the 3 different disciplines in which your skill points can be spent. Those 3 disciplines are Raven, Bear, and Wolf, and I apologize, I did actually miss talking about this really at all within the first video, and it is some important information in terms of points spending in relation to your equipment. Now, each piece of your gear obtained appear to be tied to one of these 3 disciplines, and so those skill tree nodes that allow for bonus weapon damage or armor protection also follows along that path. As can be seen in this screenshot from the original leak, the player is purchasing the melee attack training within the Wolf Power tree, which increases your melee attack, of course. However, it would seem that this increases only for weapons tied to the Wolf Power. Bear and Raven-aligned weapons would not receive this benefit unless an equivalent skill was obtained in those trees. And we'll use screenshots from the new leaked footage because, let's face it, they're cleaner. We have the Linden Light Shield here, which is denoted as being assigned to the Wolf Tree, along with this shot of Varen's Axe, which is tied to the Bear Tree. Now, in addition, the combined total of those three disciplines are your overall power rating. Now, there is a story spoiler moment here, so I will have a 5-second transition to allow anyone not wanting to see this spoiler, and please skip ahead to the timestamp shown in that transition. For those of you that do want to see the spoiler, I will allow a brief moment before the upcoming timestamp break ends before blurring it for everyone else. And because I couldn't resist, let's just go ahead and read the spoiler bit out. Oswald is dead, but the threat of Rued's clan remains. What can be done to drive them from East Anglia once and for all? And because we probably have some of the people not wanting to see the spoiler popping ahead, I will now blur the text so they can't see what was written, and hopefully they'll be rejoining us now. That said, welcome back, non-spoilery people. The overall power rating is related to the suggested power rating of specific quests, such as the currently tracked quest titled Raising Iron that has a suggested power rating of 55. Also, within the leak, we get some additional footage of the inventory submenu within this video, which is your bag that you see on the right-hand side of the screen. This shows slots for runes, collectibles, trade goods, quest items, and once it was scrolled down, treasure maps. Also, in this leaked video, we have a better idea of the special abilities, as the screen shows. Now, abilities are learned through books of knowledge. They are powerful fighting moves that can be used during battle at the cost of adrenaline. The next page shows that when you find two of the same book, the ability is then improved. And then the last page of that shows, to find more books of knowledge, explore in search of wealth in each territory. Books are often heavily guarded in monasteries or military camps, which is a fairly natural method of pushing the player into exploring the regions they're in to the fullest in search of these books of knowledge. Otherwise, they may well not be able to obtain necessary skills to be able to progress through the game. There was also additional map footage within the video clip that shows a bit more of East Anglia, and the only noteworthy component contained within that is that I was mistaken in my initial assumptions in the previous video in regards to wealth. Now, in this, those wealth, mysteries, and secrets bars clearly denote nothing more than merely what had been discovered or obtained. Now, in the previous video, I had assumed that wealth provided to your clan, increasing the clan's wealth, and I had also assumed that increased wealth would be indicated or translated within the game with better armed or armored NPCs, more developed castles, or some other such world-affecting component. Now, in that, it would appear I gave Ubisoft more credit than was deserved with those assumptions, and this is actually just a very basic mechanic. Then the last bit of noteworthy content within this video was the segment on your screen which shows different options. We have a torch in the topmost position, which that should be very self-explanatory. Moving clockwise around the track, we have a hooded face, which I'm fairly certain this is likely to be just you entering stealth mode. Then we have the horse, which again should be very self-explanatory. And next round we have a fish on a hook, which leads me to believe that Assassin's Creed may be deciding to include a fishing mechanic into the game, which again, this would seem to be one additional step in Ubisoft's desire to incorporate more RPG-style mechanics into their games. And next around we have the whistle, which was used to lure enemies within Odyssey, and we have the meditation, which is nothing new, and lastly we have a drinking horn, which, I'll be honest, I am not entirely certain what to make of that. I mean, it would make a certain amount of sense. What would a Viking game be without a horn of mead whenever you choose? But it is curious, and I'm wondering what it's actually there for. Of course, Ubisoft does have their stream on Sunday, which I will be viewing and recording, so hopefully we'll have some additional information on all of this once that happens. Now, as has been expressed by many, it does appear that even with freshened up graphics and the additional RPG-style game mechanics, that Assassin's Creed Valhalla will be little more than what many have already surmised, a reskin and retool of Odyssey with a few new mechanics. And this is certainly nothing new at all. I myself have said countless times that Ubisoft's entire business model is what I dubbed formulaic mediocrity. Ubisoft always manages to make use of their set formula to always create an above-average game, completely eliminating the potential of a truly awful game at the expense of never really being capable of creating a truly magnificent one either. It is a formula that has made them a great deal of money over the years, which is really what it's all about with the larger games corporations. And there are a great many gamers that quite enjoy this formula, and there's nothing wrong with that in the least. Don't ever let someone tell you that you're having fun wrong, after all. If you enjoy the game, then by all means, go forth and conquer, dear gamer. I wish you many hours of wonderful gameplay. But I do know that for a lot of other gamers, the shine has very much come off the apple. For myself and many others, Ubisoft's over-reliance on formulaic mediocrity grows wearisome and tedious. The gameplay, such as with Odyssey, becomes monotonous and boring, with no real enjoyment left to be had well before the game reaches its conclusion. That said, let me know your thoughts on whether you enjoy these concepts with Valhalla and look forward to the game, or if you're like me and are a bit tired of the same old thing over and over again. Now, I do read the comments after all, and I'm actually curious what everyone thinks. And if you found value in this or the previous video, I would ask that you remember to subscribe and set notifications to all so you can stay up to date with future videos. I do my best to earn my viewer support, and I hope that for at least a few of you, I've done so here. Links to my social media and my Discord server are in the description below as well. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and I'll see you next time.